you remember your deepest, darkest childhood fears? Was it a monster in the closet or the boogeyman under your bed? For me, it was that hairy mole under Aunt Millie's lip. Oof. But there is no terror greater than what the imagination of a child can rattle up. And there's no one better to tell us about the horror of innocence than Guillermo Del Toro.
I remember that as a child in the crib, already I saw monsters in my room. We had one of those 1960s shaggy rugs, you know, and I used to wake up in my crib and look at it and see a sea of green fingers instead of the green fibers of the carpet moving, and I couldn't go to the bathroom. And I started peeing on my crib, and my mother started punishing me. One night, I got up on my crib, and I said to the monsters that I saw in the closet and on the carpet and all around me, I said, if you let me go pee, I'll be your friend forever. And the next night, they were not there. And I've been peeing normally ever since. But I became the friend, so it's a deal. I was born in the second largest city in Mexico called Guadalajara. So I grew up with Universal Monsters in the afternoon of Sunday, every Sunday. And then a double bill on the theater with Hammer Films, Mario Bava. It was a steady diet of really odd sensibility horror films. I just knew that this was the type of film I wanted to do from the start. Sometimes people ask me, aren't you bothered by being cataloged as a horror director? I said, no, it took me a long time to be that. That's what I wanted to be from the start. Since I was about 8 years old, I grabbed my dad's Super 8 camera, and I started doing movies with my toys, all action sequences, kind of like Blade 2 with a low budget. I knew back then that no one was going to do my special effects because there was no special effects makeup technicians in Mexico. I decided to formalize my learning of special effects. I was already doing effects for my short films, and other people saw them and told me, can you do the effects on my movie? And I would say, yeah. But it was the way to do my movie, Cronos. It took me 8 years to make the movie, but during those 8 years, I put together little by little a workshop that could handle the effects. And sure enough, when we did Cronos, we were still probably the largest company doing makeup special effects in Mexico. And we did it, and then I closed. I closed the shop. I remember reading about the Mexican vampire and thinking, I'm going to invent a different one. I'm going to come up with a different type of vampire than this. For Cronos, what I wanted to do was to basically create an origin for a vampire unlike anything you've ever read or heard about. It started actually as a story of a granddaughter fearing that the dead grandfather would return. And then in the middle of writing it, my own grandmother got sick and was bedridden for the next 4 or 5 years and eventually died. And I started saying, what if the granddaughter accepts him, no matter how bad he looks? No matter if he's rotting away and he is half stapled together. And that gave birth to the movie as it is. To me, Cronos is a love story between a granddaughter and her grandfather. And it deals more with what it is to be alive than what it is to be immortal. The granddaughter in Cronos is basically me, and the grandfather is my grandmother. And the idea and the episodes behind the children's story in Devil's Backbone are all things I lived. I lived through Jesuit school, a male Jesuit school, which is the equivalent to prison life in Mexico. And at the age of 12, more or less at that age, I heard a ghost. I heard the ghost of my dead uncle whisper and sigh really close to my face, about a foot away from me, in what used to be his room.
¿Quién eres?
Houses are like stone tapes. They record everything that happens in there. And then sometimes, very rarely, but they do, replay. And that's a ghost. And that idea, the idea of a ghost being a sentient loop, a thing that just comes alive for a few minutes, every 2 days, every 2 years, and it just experiences the same anguish every time it comes alive, I felt that was horrible, and that was sad. And I wanted the ghost in the movie to be very sad, to be like that. The best witness you can have for anything is a child, because it's a non-judgmental, fully emotional character. I remember finishing Mimic and really wanting to almost come out for a breath of fresh air. You know, and Devil's Backbone gave me just that. And Devil's Backbone allowed me to go into Blade 2 and fully enjoy Blade 2. You know, I was able to take Blade 2 and make it the pulpish, fun movie it is, and not try to elevate, quote unquote, something. I just do it and make it fun. Visually, the most experimental movie I've made is Blade 2. I enjoyed experimenting with new techniques, new type of camera moves, and crazy patterns in the color palette or textures, and just had a blast. And I'm really looking forward to the next one, which is Hellboy. I have achieved the legendary happiness of an 8-year-old now that I'm 38. I'm happier, I'm freer now, and I'm having more fun doing movies now than ever. No one has to demand from you to grow up, because you are an official stunted person. You know, you are frozen in childhood.